Welcome to the Elliott Hine Network. I'm your host, Eris Busey. The Washington Teachers Union has launched a major initiative called Learning Doesn't Stop, Lessons on TV. Let's check out our first lesson with Linda Ryden from Lafayette Elementary School. Our second lesson will be conducted by Ms. Rachel Thomas from Bunker Hill Elementary School. Let's see what we can learn today.
Hi friends, I'm Miss Ryden and I'm the Peace teacher at Lafayette Elementary School. And today I wanted to share with you something called Take 5 Breathing. Take 5 breathing is a great way to help you to calm down if you're feeling a little nervous or angry or upset or worried. When we feel worried and angry and all those feelings, there's something that happens inside of our brain. We have a part of our brain that's called the amygdala. And the amygdala's job is to watch out for danger. Your amygdala is like a little security guard in your brain, and it's always keeping an eye out for something that might be dangerous to you. And if your amygdala thinks that you're in danger, it has 3 ways that it can respond. It can fight, it can run away, or it can freeze. Now, if you're actually in danger, those are good things. But the problem with the amygdala is that it can't tell the difference between actual danger and something that's just not so good. Like maybe you're just like kind of mad because you're having trouble with your math homework, or maybe somebody in your family, knocked down something that you were building. You're not really in danger, but you're mad. But your amygdala can't tell the difference, and so it reacts. One thing that can really help to kind of calm your amygdala down is something called Take 5 breathing. And all you do to do Take 5 breathing is you just trace your hand. So let's try it together. Sit comfortably. Get your hand ready. You have the finger of your other hand, and you're just going to trace it, and you're going to breathe. So let's start down here. And you're just going to take a deep breath in and trace up your thumb. And then breathe out as you trace down. Breathe in and trace up. Breathe out and trace down. Breathe in and trace up. Breathe out and trace down. Breathe in and trace up. Breathe out and trace down. Breathe in and trace up. Breathe out and trace down. After you do that, you might feel a little more calm. And that's something that you can try whenever you're feeling a little bit upset or angry, or if you just feel like you need to get a little more control so that you can figure out what you want to do. So I hope that you'll try Take 5 breathing when you're doing your homework, or if you're having an argument with somebody in your family, and see how it works for you. All right, friends, that's all for now. Thanks for joining me. You can get more resources at WTULocal6.net. Bye, everyone.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Thomas, a 4th and 5th grade ELA teacher at Bunker Hill Elementary School. I'm going to discuss with you today subordinating conjunctions and transition words or phrases for 4th and 5th grade ELA. What is a subordinating conjunction? Well, a subordinating conjunction is a word or phrase that links a dependent clause to an independent clause. Now, you may have heard your teacher say those words before this school year or prior to this school year, but let's dig a little deeper. Dependent versus independent clauses. A dependent clause is considered a fragment. So sometimes when you're writing and you have an incomplete thought, that's considered a dependent clause. It lacks information and is an incomplete idea. But what is an independent clause? It is a complete sentence and a complete idea. The reader is not going to ask any questions because everything has been answered in the sentence. And you may be wondering, why do we need them? Well, they connect ideas for the reader, they organize your writing, it makes it clear and coherent, and it shows time and cause and effect. For example, A dependent clause is because of the rain. An independent clause is the game ended early. Now, if we put that together to make a complete sentence with the dependent clause and the subordinating conjunction, we would have the game ended early because of the rain. That shows a cause and effect relationship. Let's try another one. Due to the rain is the dependent clause. Well, what was due to the rain? The independent clause is the game ended early. The game ended early due to the rain. Now, this is just another way of answering the because. It's another way to show the cause and effect relationship. Let's try one that deals with time. When she left. When she left is the dependent clause. When who left? Where did they go? Why did they leave? What happened? Those are all questions the reader might have, so you need to make sure that you include an independent clause or a complete idea to support when she left. Independent. The baby cried for his mother. Let's make it a complete sentence with the subordinating conjunction. The baby cried for his mother when she left. That's better. The next one is whenever he ate ice cream. Well, whenever he ate ice cream, what? Let's find out. The independent clause is he got a brain freeze. Whenever he ate ice cream, he got a brain freeze. That makes more sense. Now, did you pay attention to where the subordinating conjunction is? Yeah, it's at the beginning. So sometimes it could be in the middle of the sentence, and other times it can be in the beginning of the sentence. Whenever. Let's move on. This is a word bank to help better support your understanding of the subordinating conjunctions. Take a moment and look it over. After, because, once, where, although, before, when, that, as, until, since, though, while, if, so, that, unless, as if, then, regardless. Those are just some of the words that you can use for subordinating conjunction. Let's look at some. As long as much as soon as though, by the time, even if, even though, in order that, in case, in the event that, only if, provided that. Now, some of those are much more complicated than the ones that you saw previously. So if you're a much more confident writer, try your hand at using the longer phrases than just the one-word answers. Next, we have transition words or phrases. These are different than subordinating conjunctions because these typically come at the beginning of the sentence. These connect sentences from one idea to the next. Why do we need them? Well, I'm glad you asked. They connect ideas for the reader, organize your writing, make it clear and coherent, and they show addition, cause, effect, comparison, summary, illustration, sequence, etc., just to name a few. So as you notice, similar to the examples of transition words or phrases. Comparison. When you're writing to show comparison, you can use words like similarly, equally, likewise, in like manner, as if, comparable. When you are using transition words or phrases for time and sequence, you can use words like before, after, afterward, then, next, first, second, third, and soon, to name a few. Examples of transition words or phrases for cause and effect. Therefore, so, thus, hence, due to, as a result of, consequently. Now, this is different than the subordinating conjunction because that's going to connect two ideas, while this is going to connect a complete idea. So therefore, again, is going to go at the beginning of the sentence. Looking for words that show directions in place. Here, there, over there, beyond, under, to the left, in the distance. When using transition words or even subordinating conjunctions, you have to make sure that you're using the proper word choice for task. So, if available, you want to use a graphic organizer that helps you determine what word is best used. So, just like the examples that I provided earlier, if you're writing to illustrate something, if you want to provide a comparison or a contrast, you want to make sure that you have the word that's going to designate that the best. So let's practice some. Let's focus on sequence because that's the easiest one to learn. First, second, third, next, then, finally. Let's practice what that looks like in a paragraph. If you're following along in the learning plan, follow the specific day's activity. Otherwise, if you're just practicing the skill, use a pencil and paper and colored pencils or pens. As you see in the activity, I color-coded the sequence words to signal to the reader that these are the transition words. You could also practice this when you do your subordinating conjunctions. Good luck! Let's practice. If I were to ask you, how do you get ready for school? What would you tell me? So I created a hypothetical student and I determined how they get ready to school. But let's see if I need some transition words. I get up and shower. I pick out my uniform. I make sure to brush my teeth after breakfast. I check my book bag for all my items I will need for the day. I kiss my mother on the cheek and she tells me to behave and listen in school. I wait at the door for my siblings. We walk to and from school together. That was a really good paragraph, although I can't determine what they do first, second, or next. Let's try it with some transition words. This will show sequence of how the student gets ready. First, I get up and shower. I pick up my uniform. I make sure to brush my teeth after breakfast. Second, I check my book bag for all my items I will need for the day. Next, I kiss my mother on the cheek and she tells me to behave and listen in school. Then, I wait at the door for my siblings. We walk to and from school together. Finally, we make sure that we are headed out by 7:30 a.m. to be on time. It's important to include finally because that shows and signals to your reader that you are at the end of your sequence of ideas. You've connected them together to show how you get ready for school in the morning. Can you practice with a paragraph and use transition words to show how you do something in a sequence? As always, this has been another rich discussion of transition words and phrases and subordinating conjunctions. Thank you again for joining me this week. For further information and resources, please visit the WTULocal6.net. Have a great day.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Mr. Catapano, and I'm happy to join you here again to talk about how we can find the volume of something like this, a rectangular prism. Let's check it out. What we're going to do is we're going to be working on finding the volume of these rectangular prisms. So let's first take a look and see what a rectangular prism is all about. So a rectangular prism is a six-sided figure, right? You see them here. Here's one face, one on this side, one back here, one over here, one in front, and one underneath. So when we look at a rectangular prism, we have to look at three different measurements. We have to identify its length, its width, and its height. So here, I've identified them in this prism. So here's the length of this prism. here, which is 3 cubic units, 1, 2, 3. Its width is also 3 cubic units here, 1, 2, 3. And then its height are just 2 cubic units here. Okay? So I just want to give you an idea of when we're talking about these prisms, all these different ways that we can learn about how we can measure those shapes. So let's talk about how we can divide them up. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use these prisms to find the volume. If you have your Eureka Math lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, you can do some practice problems in your Eureka book if you have those with you. If not, you can maybe ask your teacher for a copy of those lessons. But I'm going to be pulling some examples from the Eureka book. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to be dividing up these layers. Now there are multiple ways to divide up layers of these prisms, okay? So I'm going to show you 3 ways, and then I'm going to show you how we can calculate the volume. So the first way I'm going to show you is what I call the cake way. All right? We can divide this rectangular prism up as though we were making a cake, right? As though there were 2 slices or 2 layers of this cake, right? And we can see it here in the same place in this rectangular prism, right? So if I divide this rectangular prism at its length and its width, right? How many layers do you see here? That's right, yeah, there are 2 layers. There's 1 layer here and 1 layer here. So there are 2 layers, right, for this shape. And now the question is, how many cubes are there in each of these layers? Well, we can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? So we could say there are 12 in each layer. I could also look and see that this is a 4 by 3 space. And we know that 4 times 3 is, it's 12. Right? So to find the volume of the prism, all we have to do is multiply the layers by the number of cubes in each layer. So if I do 2 times 12, what will my volume be? That's right, 2 times 12 is 24, which means that the volume of this prism is 24 cubic centimeters. We know that because it's constructed with 1 centimeter cubes. Right? So that's one way. Let me show you another way. Another way we can divide up this prism is imagining it's like a loaf of bread. Right? If you think about a loaf of bread in your fridge, right, it comes in different slices usually, unless you're buying some fancy bread, or maybe you bake some bread at home like me. But if you have sliced bread from the market, you know that you can split it up into all these slices, right? I'm going to try to do my best here with this figure. It's a little difficult, but you can see here, how many slices of bread do you see? How many layers here? There's 1 layer, 2, 3, and 4. A little more even up here, right? 4, 5, 6, right? Or we can just see that it's a 3 by 2 layer, right? So 3 by 2 is 6. And then if we multiply, we should get the same volume, right? What's 4 times 6? That's right, so still get 24, right? All right, and then there's one more way I'm going to show you to slice this up, which is sort of like the bread number 2 way. I can split it along its length and its height. See that? Length and height. Now this one's really tough to do on these. I'm going to do my best here. Length and height. Length and height. So if we look at this one as a better example, we have 1 layer here, right? We have another layer here, and we have a 3rd layer here. So there are 3 layers in this way of splitting up the rectangular prism. And how many cubes in each layer? Well, again, we can count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Or we can recognize that it's a 2 by 4 face, and we know that that's 8. So that comes down to 8 times 3, or 3 times 8, which is, you got it, 24. Still 24 cubic centimeters. All right? Let's do another one together. So let's start with the cake way. So we're going to split this up among its length and its width, right? We're creating cake layers. You can also think of this like office buildings or monuments, right? How many floors would this be in a building, or how many layers of cake? Right? I've split it up here. Try to draw my model. Okay, and how many layers do you see here? You can count them up: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, there are 5 layers. The number of cubes in each layer, again, I can count that this is a 3 by 2, or I can just count them up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And remember, we're going to multiply these by the numbers of layers times the number of cubes in each layer, and 5 times 6 is, yeah, it's 30. Good job. All right, now let's do it the bread way. Let's use purple. So slices of bread by height and width. Width and height. So how many slices of bread do you see here? Yeah, there are 3. Good job. 3 times how many cubes in each layer? Again, I could count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Or I can recognize 9, 10, excuse me. Or I can recognize that this is a 5 by 2 layer, right? 5 by 2 is 10. So a 3 by 10, or 3 times 10, is also going to give us 30. Great. And then our last way, we can split it up by length and height. How many layers do you see here? This one's a little easier to do. Yeah. How many layers do you see here? 1, 2. Then how many in each layer? Again, I could count them up, or I can do 3 by 5, which will give me 15. And 2 times 15 is still 30. Cool? When we look at a rectangular prism like this one, okay, we're going to look again at its length, its width, and its height. So I put some lines down here, and we're going to start with identifying the prism's length. So we're going to line up this blue line at the base of the figure. That's its length. We'll line up the line here to measure its width. And then we'll measure this line to measure its height. So let's identify the length first, since that's the first one up here on our list. So let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The length of this prism is 5 centimeters. What is the width? 1, 2. Good. And then the height. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in order to find the volume, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the length times the width, I'm going to shorten this a little bit, times the height. So let me clean that up a little bit. We're going to multiply the length times the width times the height. So length times width times height. And that's going to give us the volume, right? So my multiplication sentence is going to be 5 times 2 times 4. Now I would try to find some friendly numbers here. So I might do my 5 times 2 first, because I know that that's going to give me a friendly benchmark number of 10. And then I'm going to multiply that 10 by 4. So 10 times 4 is going to give me a volume of 40 cubic centimeters. Okay, let's do one more together. I think that's about as much time as we have for this morning, right? So here, we're going to start with the length. So I'm going to measure the length at the top this time. It's a little easier to see. Then I'm going to measure out the width here. And the height. So I'm going to measure on this side this time. Okay, so let's identify the width, or the length, excuse me. The length here is 1, 2, 3, 4. My width, again, is only 2 units, 2 centimeters. And then the height, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the height. So again, I'm going to multiply 4 by 2 by 4. Again, I'm going to look for some friendly benchmark numbers here. I know that 4 times 2 is 8. And I know, if I'm comfortable with my 8 math facts, I know that 8 times 4 is going to give us, that's right guys, good job, 32 cubic centimeters.
Guys, so just to review, make sure that when we're measuring a rectangular prism like this, that we are measuring its length, its width, and its height, all right, to find the volume of a shape like this. All right, for more information on this lesson and materials, go to the WTU website at WTUlocal6.net. All right, have a great day, everybody, and thanks for joining me. Bye.